Hello and welcome to the 23rd Annual Garden State Film Festival. My name is Emily DeSimone, and here with me today I have David Ambrose, director and co-writer of the homegrown short Tomorrow's Bandits. David, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you today?
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm doing great.
David, please tell our live viewers a little bit about Tomorrow's Bandits.
So, Tomorrow's Bandits is a crime comedy short film, and it was written with the help of Nicholas Sisti, who also does star in the film as well. And me and him write together often. And one of the things we really enjoy are a lot of crime films, and we like to kind of see whatever films that we like, the structure of it, what are the tropes. And so, one of the tropes that we saw in a lot of maybe we call them crime or maybe heist movies are you see the planning of the heist or you see these characters actually commit the heist themselves. So we wanted to make something that was a little bit more on the comedic side of that. So taking what we see usually in heist films, we wanted to show a scene you don't usually see, something that was off camera, something that's usually maybe like a cut between the planning or the actual heist itself. And so we wrote this scene that would be what happens when you wait for your getaway driver and everything goes wrong. You never end up doing the job itself. So that is really what Tomorrow's Bandits is. And we took this really fun comedic route, but yet still kept a lot of tension within the actual story itself. So there were some laughs. It was quirky. It was awkward. And it revolved around that feeling we can all relate to when a guest stays over your house too long and you really want them to leave and you don't know how to get them to leave. And the backdrop or the setup is really that heist story trope that I just kind of mentioned. So that's really where it came from, and the directing of it, the style with all the lighting and the really stark black and white, I think was such a beautiful contrast mixed with, like I said, tension and comedy. So that's really where it came from.
That's awesome. You mentioned that you had some inspiration from like heist movies and shows, I guess, that you've watched. Would you like to give us a few examples?
Absolutely, yeah. One inspiration I always talk about, and quite frankly never shut up about, is the drug deal scene from Boogie Nights. And not really so much a heist movie or a crime movie, but one of those how that inspired this whole short film was how much tension you can build with three characters sitting in a room and they're on a couch. That blew me away because you don't really need a lot of money for that. As an independent filmmaker, that showed me that of course, I'm nowhere near the level as Paul Thomas Anderson, but if I can have a room with the couch and some characters and some context, you really can build tension. You don't need these $1 million cranes or all 30-person camera crew alone. And so that was something that really helped inspire everything taking place in one room. Some other inspiration for this, I would say, was some Japanese noir films when it came to the style. As I just said in my previous point, this was taking place in one room. So, and we were also shooting in black and white as well. So to stand out a little bit more, I wanted to heighten the black and white and not just have it be what I would call a regular black and white. And Japanese noir, they have incredible in-your-face experimental lighting. A perfect example that I always talk about is Shizen Suzuki's Branded to Kill, and it really blew me away on what you can do with black and white. I thought I knew everything. I was being naive, and I watched that movie, and I saw that you can put a spotlight on a character's eyes in a completely dark room, heightening the color palette of literally just the two colors of black and white. And you can have a silhouette of a person turn around, and then they walk through a spotlight of bright highlights into their eyes, or playing with shadows that you can see between a window, the split screens. I mean, it wasn't in color, but yet the style was so there and it was in your face. So those two really helped inspire a lot of the film coming to life. And then I would say maybe the story aspect of it, because I did mention it was comedic. Um, I would say it would probably be big inspiration also from Bottle Rocket. And it's a perfect example of the kind of show the quirkiness of this film. And then, it was just great to implement my own style and let the actors run loose. So hope that answers your question.
Absolutely, it does. It sounds to me like you, I mean, as an independent filmmaker, I would love to know what some of your background is in this and what this process was like for you. Maybe something that you had like a challenge with or a favorite part with that you would take with you for your next project.
Oh, wow. So one of the things I would um, Okay, so starting with like a challenge, I think the challenge would be shooting in. It was really one location. It was one apartment room, but as the director, I use that as all this room for creativity. So as an independent filmmaker, we only have so much time and only so much crew. So being in one room, I really wanted to try a lot of those experimental lighting techniques with a spotlight in the room on a particular object when the characters shut off all the lights, or a spotlight on the person's eyes, as I had mentioned. So kind of saying like, okay, we are in one room. That is a challenge, but you know what? It's kind of a creative challenge because we don't have to spend time going to different locations. We were really only focused on like this one specific table, and because of that, I feel like we were able to be so much more creative. And
Mhm.
from there, what I would love to bring to my future projects, which is actually just like a non, like at this point, like a no brainer, like I am bringing it to my future projects, is to literally stop trying to control everything. Now, what do I mean by that, right? I just said about the lighting and one location. So it
Mhm.
was about a week before we were going to shoot, and I was trying all these new directing tactics, and I was really, really going in rehearsal with these actors. Again, to my first point, it was pretty clear cut with the script and where we were that you were able to be super creative. So I was doing a lot of different experiments with how I wanted to direct actors and how I wanted them to get their best performance. So a week before we're about to shoot, we do a rehearsal, and we're rehearsing a scene that holds the same emotion but is not a scene on the script. It was actually a scene that I made up that happened when the script is over, but it still held that same emotion. So I can still direct them and fix what I want to fix, have them be in character, and yet we're not, just beating the same words and over again robotically. I want that to be authentic. So what came of this? What came of this was something that I had not experienced before as a filmmaker. This really is only my second narrative short at this time. What I saw was I saw the actors come alive. They were just sitting down and they became alive. It was a real conversation. I felt the awkwardness of them wanting this man to leave their apartment. They weren't sure uh, what time he was going to leave, but it was real. And they weren't waiting for their line to finish to then say their own line. I gave them the confidence and told them that they can do no wrong.
Mhm.
I don't care what you do, and that bred a lot of improv, and it was beautiful. And so I had all these shots that I wanted to do, and this was a week before, and I think I scrapped we still had a lot of shots, but I scrapped so many of them. I wanted to keep them in these sort of wide shots, and then we would use composition with the camera and realign the room so we could still see what we want to see, but we kept it in a lot of wide and simple shots so they can give their best performance. And what happened on set, when we were actually shooting, was that they had this great improv scene of making a pickle sandwich. It was never on script, but it was so funny. Everyone on set was cracking up that that would have never happened in rehearsal if I didn't go over that with them, because that was new. We never talked about a sandwich before. We talked about all these other things, but during rehearsal, they showed me that I could trust them. They showed me that, you know, I can't write better than two guys who are feeling awkward in a room that really want someone else to leave. That is already funny, and you just give them something to start with, and now they're going back and forth with their mannerisms, with their responses, and everyone's just having a great time. So that is something I never did in my first film. I remember in my first time directing an actor, I almost didn't know what to say. You're so focused on the camera, you're so focused on the lighting, and you really think you want the lines to be said a certain way, and maybe that'll change in the future. All I know is for my next project, I definitely want the actors to feel comfortable. I want to write enough so they know what the heck is going on. But most of all, I really want them to embrace the character. And as the filmmaker, I'm not there to control them. If anything, I'm there to kind of contain them. And it's up to me and the camera crew to let them run wild, them take control without them knowing that. And we're just there to capture it. So, long-winded answer, but I hope that
No, absolutely. I mean, hey, look, like I love watching films and TV shows. And when you see that something wasn't planned and it was improvised, or that it was a joke on one of the other actors and that actor didn't know it was going to happen and ends up being put in the final cut, it's so authentic. And it's something that I think it really does bring joy to the viewers, as well as you can see the joy that it brings, I think, to the actors that are performing it. Which, speaking of, How did you find your cast and crew as an independent filmmaker? Do you like to work with the same people, or do you have a process of finding who you're working with?
So, for the cast, there was only 3 actors. Everything was really simple, and so that gave us a lot of room for all the things I had just mentioned. Um, so the internet used Backstage, and Dominic Cost, amazing working with him. He's incredibly talented, and I even tell him it's non-negotiable. We're working on everything together, and I see him when I can. And I met him in 2021 when I was directing my first short film, and so we've been connected since then. So I met him through Backstage, just in random posting. I love working with him. His skill to really run with whatever you give him and make it his own is it was just brilliant, and he's someone I can't wait to work with again. Darius Lassiter was somebody, ironically, who I met on a job. I was, I think, second AC on this film crew that I was blessed to be on from the director George Haley, because I had no business being there. I really was not as experienced or knew anything that any of these people knew. And he said I could come on. I learned a lot. I bring that up because everybody knows when you're on set, eventually you give each other your social media. He ended up seeing the short film, the first one I just mentioned, and or he saw the trailer for it. And during lunch, he came up to me in front of everybody. And like I said, I felt like I wasn't good enough to be there. He came in front of everybody. And was like, dude, your short film looks so cool. Can I see it? And I remember thinking, my heart dropped, and I was like, I don't think I'm supposed to be talking about this right now. Uh, but I remember that, and then months later, when I was ready to shoot, I DM'd him, and I remember getting his message back, and he was like, "Dude, I loved your film. I'm in." So I didn't even do a rehearsal for him either. And then Nick Sisti, he was not even the original actor for that role. And it couldn't have been done better. Things always happen for a reason. We were originally going to have a heavy and kind of like like almost a trope that we're used to seeing, and instead we got more of a Gus Fring character, somebody who's a little bit more. Well, I wouldn't say a little bit more. Somebody who is quiet, and you actually don't know what they're going to do next. And we felt like with a heavy, that it would almost be predictable and kind of defeat the whole point of the film. So what ended up happening was that that actor backed out. I think like a month to go, and we had Nick as a plan B, and we loved it. After the first rehearsal, we thought this was so funny, this was so good. So he was there as the writer, and then the cast and crew, or I would say the crew at that time, the brilliant producer Cheyenne Santiago. She had a lot of friends that she knew from school. Some of them I was familiar with, others I did not. And so she was just texting people, calling people, and I'm never going to forget what she said. She's just such a pleasure to work with for that project. And she told me, she's like, I want you to be able to focus on everything creatively. I'm here to do all the logistics, and she really was for that time. And she really got a lot of these crew members, like I said, that were from school, or they were a friend of a friend, and it was a pretty small crew, but that's how we got them. So I would say, to sum it up, the internet and friend connections.
I apologize. I have someone outside vacuuming, if you can hear that in the background. But before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you if you have any future plans for this project or any future projects coming up.
Thank you for asking. So, no, I did not hear the vacuum, so don't so don't worry about that. Um, so future projects right now, I'm just excited to put Tomorrow's Bandits out there into the festival circuit. I'm excited to put it out there into the world. Tomorrow's Bandits, as a short film that's going to be screening here at this year's Garden State Film Festival, is a proof of concept for a feature-length film. I'm currently writing that with a few writing partners of mine, and I'm very excited to finish that, and also excited for people to see the film, because when you see this short, you're going to get the style of it, you're going to get the quirkiness of it, and from there you can really see, or you can ask yourself that question of, hey, what happens next? Like I said, this was one scene and it was taking place in one room. So what happens next, or what happens before it? And I have the script to tell you what does happen next. So I'm very, very excited to get that out there into the world and meet other people who are asking that question. And then the project I would say I'm in production for, not writing for, is I'm currently working on a documentary. It revolves around the story of two people meeting after 70 years apart, and they're coming back together, not just reconnecting family wise, but they're also reconnecting over a photograph that one of the parties thought she had lost forever and lost contact with forever since they were gone or since they were separated for 70 years. So I'm really documenting not just the before of the meet, but then I'm also, or the meetup, I'm also documenting when they did meet up, and that's already been done. Now I'm documenting the aftermath of what has happened and how it feels to be now close with family who you have just not seen for 70 years, because it seems like there's always something to talk about. I mean, if I don't see my friends for 2 weeks, there's a lot to say. So I can't imagine, 70 years. So I'm very excited for that. There's a lot of film aspects in it that are new for me, not just the interview style of documentaries, but most importantly, film footage. I'm using 8mm film, home movies that were caught from the 1950s, to also shooting B-roll that is in Super 8 as well. So not just capturing this beautiful moment, but we're also capturing it in digital and in film. And I think there's something really beautiful about that. So I'm very excited to continue that project, and I'm excited to share more news as I'm getting ready for the fundraiser, as well as to shoot again the next month or two. So that's what I'm working on now.
David, I feel like I could keep you on here for an hour. You're such an easy speaker to listen to, and everything you're saying you're a wonderful speaker, and it really has been such a pleasure to speak with you. This, at least it's the morning for me. I'm in Philadelphia, but
Same here.
okay. With that said, though, again, I wish I could keep you. But guys, the homegrown short Tomorrow's Bandits will be screening at the Jersey Shore Arts Center on Saturday, March 29th at 2:30 p.m. David, again, it has been such a pleasure to speak with you this morning. Will I be seeing you at the festival?
Yes, I will be attending, and some of the crew and cast members will be attending as well.
Awesome. Well, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I can't wait.
Thank you so much.